Good morning and welcome to day 41 of the Geriatric 1944 Coronavirus Diaries. And what I want to talk to you about today is hair. We can't get haircuts. My hair is growing all over the place and I'm starting to look like a mad professor. We desperately need our haircuts. Will you please get on with the relaxing of restrictions, Mr. Johnson, so we can all start leading a vaguely normal life? Hair has always been interesting for me, and I'll touch on that later. But before I do, today is Sunday, and the magnificent Peter Hitchens in the Mail on Sunday has done yet another main story in his column, talking about how he cannot believe that people and the media do not see the reality that this coronavirus is a fairly trivial virus for 95% of people who get it, and basically has been boosted by the media and their agenda. They needed a good story, especially after Brexit died. They wanted something to cover it. They tried with Harry and Meghan and got nowhere. Prince Andrew, nobody's interested. So they finally came upon this and they inflated this trivial virus into a major plague and epidemic all over the world. Well, most of the world fell for it, as the media is very, very powerful. And the net result was most countries did this ridiculous lockdown, which has ruined the economies. It has caused thousands to die from heart attacks, strokes, various different things, cancer, sepsis, everything else. Instead of going to hospital and getting treated, it's been a total disaster. And all because the media painted it as a global plague instead of a trivial virus for 95% of people, which was very serious for 5%. And as a result, what should have happened is that 5%, us, by the way, the elderly and the vulnerable like diabetics and all the rest of it, should have been far better protected from catching it and far better treated when we did catch it, i.e. ventilators in all care homes and so on and so forth. I reckon about half the amount of people who have died with coronavirus wouldn't have died if that road had been taken. Plus, we wouldn't have had this absurd lockdown of everybody to protect the 100% of people when 95% do not need protection, just like they do not need protection from flu. It's interesting that South Korea, who now have announced no deaths and no new infections and so on, with a population of 51 million people, by the way, have actually now shown that the quantity of deaths is, I think, 250. In a population of 51 million, the South Koreans have always been quite bright. Recently, they picked up on the whole boy band thing and formed a group called BTS, making adequate, not great, but adequate records that have sold millions around the world because it dawned on the South Koreans that this was a very good way to make an awful lot of money. It's happened before with, I started it, or was early on it, with the Bay City Rollers. I think we had the Monkeys. We've had various others take that. We had One Direction were around recently, all these bands. You can make millions from them making adequate records, dancing quite well, looking pretty. They've all got to look like girls, by the way, because then the girls fancy them and they know they're not threatening. I remember back in the 60s, I got terrible trouble because I revealed that the little girls never fancied someone like Tom Jones because he looked so masculine and butch that if he got into any personal relationship, of course he couldn't these days, social distancing, the little girls would be in terrible trouble. Whereas if you choose boys that look like little girls, the little girls feel very safe and they know that even if they got into close proximity with these young lads, the prospect of them doing any real damage would be virtually nothing. Anyway, back onto hair. One of my many different hairstyles was way back in the 70s when I bought a multicoloured wig to promote a record of mine called One for You, One for Me, or rather One for Me, One for You. And it worked. I did Top of the Pops in it. I bought extra ones for my backing singers to wear and they wore it. and it turned into quite a big hit. And so after that, that was about 78, 79. After that, I stopped wearing it. And I remember everybody wanted me to keep wearing it, especially television, if I had to do TV appearances. I got really fed up. And I said to everybody, no, I've given that wig up. Under no more circumstances am I wearing that wig. Because most people thought it was my own hair. I had to convince people and allow them to tug it because they were sure I'd actually dyed my hair yellow and green and red and everything else. Anyway, it used to drive me mad, and I'd never do it. I do remember one time in the early 80s, a friend of mine who was having his 21st birthday and celebrating having managed to succeed at university and all those things, and begged me to come to his birthday party in Birmingham. Now, can you imagine anything worse than the prospect of a bunch of students celebrating a 21st birthday in Birmingham and being forced to come wearing the multicoloured wig, because he said, that's what we must see you in, please come in it, please come with it. Anyway, as a result, I did. I drove all the way up to Birmingham. I then put on the silly wig in the car outside, went in, literally only stayed for about 5 minutes because it was just a nightmare. Got back in the car, took the wig off and drove back down to London. There's friendship for you, by the way. And I did think to myself, quite apart from anything else, it was in Birmingham. Who in the world wants ever to be in Birmingham? And it reminded me of another lovely lady who starred in a series called Crossroads. Now, Crossroads was set in Birmingham in a motel, Crossroads Motel. And the lead star, playing a woman called Meg Richardson, who owned the hotel, or the motel, was a lovely lady called Noel Gordon. And she approached me with a record she'd made with some friends of hers up in Birmingham, which was called To My Daughter. And it was the most kitsch thing I have ever heard in my life. Anyway, we did put it out. It didn't sell, but I still to this day think it's hilariously funny. But it's also very serious, very touching, a mother singing to her daughter on every level. You have to take it seriously, but you have to stop yourself collapsing with laughter. So I thought I'd finish off today by playing you. It's on the 80 greatest hits for UK records, by the way, on that collection. I thought I'd play you Noel Gordon and To My Daughter. See you tomorrow.
The world stood still for me when you were born, and your first faint cry wakened the cold grey dawn. They laid you in my arms, so fragile and so small, and I marveled that this tiny soul could be alive at all. No lashes, nails, and oh so blue. Just 8 weeks early, yet this miracle was you. And even then your need for love just couldn't be denied, as you struggled for survival from the loneliness inside. My firstborn, how I made such plans for you. But then I find that dreams and plans so very rare come true. We've wept together, you and I, angry, bitter tears. Yet we've been such a comfort to each other through the years. I watched you tumble as a child and kissed your hurt away. And I wish with all my heart I could do the same for you today. That I could only stand by helpless, sharing your grief and pain, praying you'd have the courage and the will to start again. Your life's been like a jigsaw with the pieces all in bits, and you've groped around despairingly, wondering where your jigsaw fits. Then piece by piece and day by day, you built it all anew, till your picture is completed, and I'm so proud of you. I've always prayed you'd find yourself, the best is yet to be, and you've grown into the sort of person beautiful to see. I loved you from the moment that you made that first sweet cry, and I know I'll always love you and never question